Coming up in today's newscast, the Gaza ceasefire is shattered by fresh rockets in the night. Israel denies signing a secret deal with Russia to remove Iran from southern Syria. And we've got one amazing wedding announcement just in time to kick off Tel Aviv Pride Week. Mere days after Hamas and Israel entered a ceasefire to halt the violence coming out of Gaza, terror cells fired a fresh barrage of rockets from the Strip into Israeli territory, bringing that deal crashing down. Most of the rockets landed in open fields, though Israel's Iron Dome defense system did intercept at least 3. No casualties or damage have been reported at this time. In response, the IDF has carried out 2 rounds of airstrikes on Hamas targets throughout the Strip. At least 15 Hamas sites, including a weapons manufacturing and storage warehouse, have been hit in these counterattacks. Palestinian sources say that Hamas was not, in fact, behind these latest rocket attacks. Instead, a rogue terror group is believed to be behind it. But regardless of who pulls the trigger, Israel does hold Hamas directly accountable for all security in Gaza, which is why these retaliations have struck Hamas targets. This is also why Hamas was apparently so eager to sign a ceasefire deal last week after Israel counterattacks pummeled its military sites in one of the worst flare-ups between Israel and Gaza since 2014's Operation Protective Edge. Analysts say that both sides are eager to avoid an all-out war at this time. In order to avoid this scenario, however, Palestinian leaders will need to sow those seeds of peace for the people. Over the weekend in the West Bank, a Palestinian man attempted to ram his car into a group of IDF soldiers. Israeli security teams responded with live fire, killing the suspect on the spot. Here with more updates on the situation with Gaza is Senior Research Fellow at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies, Major General Reserve Gershon Cohens. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening.
So what are your first reactions after seeing what happened this weekend?
In order to understand, we must not only analyze what's going on, we must go back and analyze the change and the essence of the change. And something very important as a critical change can lead us to understanding. If we will not compare what happened in Gaza since the disengagement in 2005. I was a general, commanded the troops to uproot the Jews from Gaza.
Right.
And what happened in Judea and Samaria since 2005, we can recognize 2 models. One model that really exemplifying absolute separation between the Palestinians and Israel, and something emerged there. A Hamas state. De facto, it is a state with military forces, with territory and people. On the other side, in Judea and Samaria, something else was emerged. Just take, for example, the phenomena that 200,000 Palestinians came last Friday to pray in Al-Aqsa. And the IDF, together with the Palestinian police, helped them to go immediately without obstacles, and it was going easy. So 2 models, 2 behaviors, and if we will not really understand and recognize with full awareness the 2 different models, we will not really get the key for analyzing the solution for Gaza.
Well, I have a question. In your opinion, and I need a short answer here, looking back, now let's look at the future. Where is this going to go, specifically in the situation with Gaza? Is this going to end up in an all-out war at some point? Or?
No, not necessarily. What is really important, not only for the Israelis, but for the international activities, is to remove the center of gravity and all the activities to take care about human rights from Judea and Samaria and Ramallah to Gaza, because there are 2 different entities. And by that, Gaza are really exemplifying different entity, different people. Actually, from the past, there are different tribes. Even the language is not the same. They are belonging to Egypt much more than to Hebron and Al-Aqsa and to Al-Quds, to Jerusalem. What it means...
And in Gaza, you would say that the center of gravity here would be Hamas leadership, most likely.
Okay, and all the investments must be taken not directly from, not from Ramallah, by mediation, to Gaza, but directly to Gaza.
Right. Well, this is obviously something we could discuss a whole lot more, and it's a very complicated issue. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us. We'll see where this goes. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Of course. Well, we're seeing a shocking turnaround in southern Syria. A Syrian war monitor is reporting that thousands of Iranian and Hezbollah fighters are actually preparing to withdraw from southern Syria, backing away from the Israeli border. And the timing does not seem to be mere coincidence. In fact, after months of lobbying, many believe that Israel has just signed a secret deal with Russia to make this withdrawal a reality. At this time, Israel has denied any such deal with Russia, but sources say that last week's visit by Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman to Moscow was likely the finalizing of a long-sought-after deal with Russia to extend the buffer zone in southern Syria. According to reports, Iranian and Hezbollah infantry will now be moving their troops at least 20 kilometers behind the border. At a later time, this buffer will be supposedly extending 60 or even 70 kilometers over a gradual period of time. But this deal apparently goes both ways. In return for a green light to attack Iranian targets in the region, Israel has supposedly agreed to refrain from harming any Syrian military sites. This could pose a somewhat moral dilemma in the future, as Syrian pro-regime factions have been linked to the horrific gassing of innocent Syrians over the last several years. Still, Israel has been seeking a buffer from Iranian proxy armies in the region for quite some time now. Despite Israel's denial, a Russian ambassador has seemingly acknowledged that this is a done deal. For Syria, however, the entire idea is moot, publicly at least.
ليس هناك وجود إيراني بمعنى الوجود العسكري على الأرض. هذه روايات إسرائيلية تحاول أن تستفيد من الهجمة الأمريكية ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية. في سوريا مستشارون إيرانيون بعضهم استشهد يعملون إلى جانب القوات المسلحة العربية السورية، وهم موجودون باتفاق وتنسيق مع قواتنا المسلحة حيث يجب أن يكونوا. لا توجد قواعد عسكرية ثابتة للجمهورية الإسلامية الإيرانية.
A shocking media report has just set off a political bombshell. The Ovadia television program has accused Prime Minister Netanyahu of ordering the Shin Bet to place wiretaps on the former heads of both the IDF and the Mossad sometime in 2011. Though the report claims this information comes from unnamed sources close to the situation, both the Prime Minister and the former head of the Shin Bet, Cohens, have totally denied the allegations. The statement from Cohen, who would have been in his early tenure at the time of the alleged request, is unambiguous. Cohen says, quote, "Prime Minister Netanyahu never asked me to listen in on former Mossad chief Tamir Pardo or former Chief of Staff Benny Gantz. I was surprised by the report. This is nonsense," end quote. Netanyahu released a similar denial on Twitter, saying that what he prefers to listen to in his free time isn't his co-workers, but rather, quote, the Beatles, the first albums, and ABBA. Despite these firm denials, the accusations have others rattled to the core. The report claims that Netanyahu ordered the wiretaps due to unfounded claims that his colleagues may have been leaking information. Others suggest that Netanyahu simply questioned their loyalty. Opposition members in the Knesset are demanding a complete and thorough investigation into these allegations, and it's important to note here that this request was supposedly rejected in 2011 by the same man who today says the request was never made in the first place. Despite very clear opposition to the Islamic regime in Iran, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has taken to Twitter and delivered a short message addressed to the people of Iran. Take a look.
What I'm about to say may surprise you, coming from the Prime Minister of Israel. But I categorically state, Iranians are among the most gifted and successful people in the world. Of course, there's one catch: when they leave Iran. You see, in Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs of Iranian heritage are among the founders and CEOs of Uber, eBay, Dropbox, and many other outstanding companies. The Iranian people are brilliant. They're innovative. So why is Iran so poor? Why is unemployment so rampant? The answer is in two words: the regime. Iran's dictators plunder the country's wealth. Isn't it a shame that Iran doesn't invest in its people? Instead, they divert tens of billions of dollars to their nuclear program, to the spread of terror around the world, to their aggression throughout the Middle East. Meanwhile, the Iranian people are the ones that suffer. I look forward to the day when the Iranian people don't need to go to Silicon Valley, don't need to go there to build the most successful companies in the world. Imagine Iranian and Israeli entrepreneurs working together in Iran and in Israel for the betterment of all humanity. That's my hope. That is my vision. And that can be our future.
Here with more on this outreach is ILTV's Aaron Porras. So Aaron, this isn't the first time Netanyahu has addressed the people of Iran directly. What's the Prime Minister really hoping to achieve here?
Well, of course, we could look at this cynically and say that it's just politics. But even if that's true, the message that Netanyahu delivered is informative of Israeli policy when it comes to Iran. The Prime Minister was very clear, even in this latest message, that his ideal scenario sounds like a complete regime change.
Right.
So assuming that the people rise up and replace the Ayatollahs, then appealing to the people is a great way to set up a pro-cooperation, sentiment in a future government.
Sure. I mean, a lot of people believe that the actions of the Israeli government, on the other hand, as well as the actions of, President Trump in withdrawing from the nuclear deal, that has endangered any hope of building trust with the Iranian people. If that is the case, then these messages would be kind of a shot in the dark. No, I mean, even if the regime change is kind of the bottom line here.
Maybe, maybe not. I do think that even recent history has taught us that the United States is quite capable, if not willing, to topple regimes. And the issue, as has been seen, is what to do next. Right. But, if you look at Iran, millions of Iranians already seem to be ready for the change. Case in point, the White Wednesday movement, where women in Iran have been removing their headscarves in protest against the government. The Iranian police reportedly stopped counting how often they had to intervene with women for breaking the hijab laws after it became the most reported crime by far.
Wow.
And many Iranian men have also started to stand in solidarity, showing a very progressive movement taking hold in the streets.
Wow. And how has the regime reacted to this movement?
Well, they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars actually trying to reverse the trend, using ads and billboards and pretty much anything else you can think of, including undercover agents in Tehran, but nothing is working.
It's worth pointing out here that there are several Israeli initiatives just from ordinary Israeli citizens that have been reaching out to the Iranian people for quite some time now. Though the regime does block a lot of social media use in their country, you can even see kind of digital friendships form between Israelis and Iranians over Instagram, through photography, through the arts, and of course through through film. We can only hope that this will sow the seeds of peace ultimately someday, but we'll have to see. Either way, thank you for joining us, Aaron. Thanks for the update.
No problem.
Well, for some of us, learning a new language is crazy hard, and for others, it comes so naturally that it almost seems unfair. Well, here's a case where it apparently came so easily that experts don't even know how it's possible. A 3.5-year-old, Drew's child here in Israel recently began speaking fluent English, despite the fact that apparently no one taught him how to do it. And to make this even weirder, he speaks it with a flawless British accent. And if you think I'm joking, check this out.
What are you doing?
It's a waterfall. Waterfall.
אומר שזה כמו מפל.
Waterfall.
אני לא מבין כל מילה, אבל לפעמים אומר לו כן, אוקיי, ואני לא מבין מה שהוא אומר.
Waterfall. As reported by Israel's Channel 10 News, this footage is just one of many examples of the toddler's innate English-speaking talents. 3-year-old ONeill Mahmoud, who's named after NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal, by the way, didn't speak at all until he was 2. But suddenly, after a short period of making random noises, he astonished his parents by speaking fluent English. And not just any old English, guys. As you may have noticed, he speaks with a peculiar British accent, and he uses archaic words that harken to a somewhat outdated English dialect of yore. To make this even more baffling, little ONeill even uses exclamations like, "My dear," and "Oh my goodness," which, needless to say, are utterly foreign to your typical Arabic-speaking Druze household. Now, here's where the mystery really deepens. ONeill's parents not only don't speak English at home, they don't even understand it to begin with. The family says he was hardly exposed to English-speaking TV or music at home. Channel 10 even invited medics to meet the boy, but no one could figure out exactly how he contracted English so fully, nor how he adopted a, quote, Pakistani accent from South London. His English is so good that it actually puts him on par with 3-year-olds brought up in 100% English-speaking households. And bizarrely, his English is actually way above his Arabic, the only language that is spoken at home. Many Druze believe in the powers of reincarnation. Well, the case of little ONeill might just turn everyone else into believers too.
ONeill?
And shopping, buy Kinder Surprise.
Which candy do you like?
White and red.
What?
White and red. It's a Kinder Surprise.
Kinder surprise.
Yes.
Oh,
We have toy. We have a toy.
well,
There's a Kinder Surprise inside.
Great. Okay. Israel is looking to become a world leader in yet another area of technological expertise. The Prime Minister's office has just announced a new cutting-edge program that would integrate advanced quantum technology into the military's intelligence wing. The revolutionary field of quantum study is undoubtedly the world's most exciting and still unpioneered new terrain. So let's get the obvious question out of the way first. What the heck is a quantum technology? Well, to understand that, you'll need to understand a little bit about quantum physics, which is a relatively new field of study discovered at the beginning of the 20th century. Basically, quantum physics is the study of the tiniest particles that make up the universe, particles even smaller than an atom. These particles, like electrons, hadrons, quarks, and superstrings, are now believed to be the building blocks of all matter in the universe. But they're especially unique not only in their teeny tiny subatomic size, but also in the fact that some can occupy multiple spaces at the exact same moment in time. Okay, even if that goes a little bit over your head, let's apply this to modern technology. Now, there are three known technologies that harness our understanding of the quantum world into practical use, and now Israel will plan on advancing all three. First, there's quantum communication, which you can think of as an incredible system for sending and receiving confidential data on a subatomic level. China actually developed a computer network built on this principle last year, and it's considered to be the world's only unhackable network. The next technology is quantum timing, and that's a system that uses quantum particles to keep perfect timing. Interestingly, Israel's Iron Dome already uses this system for its atomic clock. And last but not least is quantum computing. Now, this idea, which is still more a theory than an actual technology, sees entire computer systems constructed from particles as small as electrons. Now, in theory, this could give birth to an entire generation of super fast, super powered computers that can perform thousands of tasks at once. But for now, scientists have been unable to quite crack one that can work. Well, if Israel lives up to its reputation as a world innovator, that may soon be about to change. Experts still don't know a whole lot about how our subatomic world works, but that makes the discoveries to come all the more exciting. Don't you just hate it when you visit a website or use an app or try and do some business, but then suddenly before you can finish, you have to start all over from scratch over the phone? Why can't we just consolidate that whole experience into one website? Well, an Israeli company called Overtalk says that you can. And here with the details is Overtalk CMO, Guy Naol. Guy, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So tell me, what does Overtalk do exactly?
Yeah, so actually what Overtalk do is we're changing the outdated process how online users interact with businesses online. So today what happens, as you described exactly, when you go for an action from a website or application, and after you discovered, explored the webpage, and you decided that you want to go for action and call the business, what happens technically, you're leaving the website, you're abandoning the website or the application or the social page, and you go out to another infrastructure like is a telephone system. So what happened is technically, when you leave in the website, you cannot collect any more data about the process, what happened with the customer, between the customer
and
it's
super annoying. It's,
it is.
Very frustrating.
Yeah, and Overtalk is actually fixing this issue.
Okay, so how exactly do you do that? Is it like with a new app or it's a new website?
So the user side doesn't have to download any application. Just as you used to go to any application or website, he's still going there, and he finds the Overtalk button. We call it the magic button, and when you press on it, you have three options to interact with the business, with voice call and video messaging and chat.
Right.
So these three options actually can save a lot of time for the user and for the merchant.
And the business as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of businesses would potentially use this?
We're talking about, we aim in the SOHO, so the small and medium businesses, mainly in the US. We just came back from a big conference in Chicago called the LSA, the Local Search Association.
Yeah.
And then we met some agencies and YPs and maps and search engines that deal with these SMBs.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we're going to market this product through them, with them.
Cool. Well, we're almost out of
partners.
time, but I got to ask, what's next for you guys? Like, what's coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so we're gonna develop the very cool things that you're gonna meet as a user. So we call it the new touch points with the user. So with our solution, before the business take the call, So you as a user can experience visual messages and video and some activities that and promos that the business want you to show before it takes the call. During the call, you can complete the transaction, so you can pay online. During the call, you can share files.
Wow.
You can go for bookings, buy tickets and stuff. And after the call ends, we deliver on the same layer on the website. We deliver customized content that fits you as a customer.
Wow.
And that's based on what happened or didn't happen during the interaction with the business.
I've got a feeling everyone's going to jump on this. This sounds great. Guy, thank you so much for coming in. Really exciting stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right, today marks the first day of Tel Aviv's Pride Week, quite possibly the single biggest celebration of LGBTQ freedom in the Middle East. And this week-long event will culminate in the annual Tel Aviv Pride Parade this Friday, but things have already kicked off with a bit of news that has the entire community beaming. Ovadia Cohen, the grandson of former Chief Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, has just announced that he will tie the knot with his longtime boyfriend next week. For members of Israel's LGBTQ community, this is a historic and symbolic moment. The State of Israel's religious laws often do not recognize same-sex marriages or rights for same-sex partners, and the community has spent decades struggling for equal rights. Now, the past few years have seen a few significant wins for the gay community, though at this time the state still does not offer civil marriages. But the news of Ovadia Cohen's marriage to longtime boyfriend Amichai Landsman is a symbol of hope, not only as a celebration of love in all its forms, but also because of Cohen's historic lineage. Cohen's parents divorced at an early age, and he was mostly raised by his grandfather, former Chief Sephardic Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef. As an adult, Cohen married a woman and they had 2 children. He later divorced and then came out as homosexual. Sometime after that, he met his husband-to-be, who grew up in a religious Zionist community in Haifa. The two have lived together for several years now, practicing a religious lifestyle. Israel's religious leaders have often butted heads with the country's homosexual community. In extreme cases, they've even advocated for conversion therapy instead of embracing the homosexual lifestyle. Though homosexuality remains taboo for some Orthodox, others have warmly embraced the gay community and have begun to join the rally cry of thousands all over the world for equality in the name of love. Cohen's wedding is the very embodiment of that promise. The ceremony will be ordained by Zacharit Sorek, a woman who identifies as both a lesbian and an Orthodox Jew. Israel's wheelchair tennis team just competed at the BNP Paribas World Team Cup in the Netherlands over the weekend. And the duo knocked out Japan, South Korea, and the United States on their way to the top, but in the end, they just barely missed out on the gold and got knocked out by Australia in the semifinals. Still, silver is pretty amazing. Things started off strong in the semifinal showdown against Team Australia. For the first singles round, Gershon shut down his opponent 6-1, but Australia fired back in the next round, winning a 6-0 straight set of wins over ONeill. That placed the final decider on the doubles match, which pitted the duos head-to-head. But in the end, the Australian team narrowly pulled off the win, sending Israel home with the silver. It's got to be tough to come so close to the gold and end up second, but when you're second in the world, that's still quite the accomplishment. And you can be sure that Israel's wheelchair tennis team will be gunning for that #1 spot come the championship next year.
The Hebrew word of the day is brought to you by IDC Summer Ulpan, open to everyone.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Well, coming in second place in anything on the global scale is amazing, but in wheelchair tennis, even more incredible. And that's why today's word is kisei galgalim, or the wheelchair. Now, there are many reasons someone might need a kisei galgalim, or a wheelchair. From a broken leg to a degenerative disease, a kisei galgalim is one of the best ways to keep patients mobile and on the go. And hey, if motocross or wheelchair rugby have taught us anything, it's that someone in a kisei galgalim is just as capable as you or me, and in many cases, quite more so. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Today should be mostly clear and warm with a low of 71 or 22 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow will be partially cloudy with a chance of rain and little change in temperatures. The high should be about 82 or 28 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.56 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Brett Allen Smith. Thank you for watching.